Well, hey there, everybody. It's been a little while since I've been able to release a video, especially the ones I wanted to do on a weekly basis. My investigation series, which I can't tell you how much I enjoy the research for it. Just going into the realm of having to prove a theory, like that Mormonism is Judaism, has been so rewarding on so many informational fronts, and at the same time, it's been really, really broad. The reason I'm making this video is I just wanted to tell you a little bit about what's going on, why I haven't been able to release anything, just in brief. And then I may be able to talk a little bit about the things that have been involved with the research I've been doing. Hopefully, kind of leave you with something, but the biggest reason is, and actually I'm coming from a chemo infusion right now. This is the fourth one out of 6 scheduled, so 2 more to go, which means I got a month and a half left, and it couldn't be over soon enough as far as I'm concerned. It's not just the chemo itself, which it's called R-CHOP, rituximab with CHOP. So it's a lot of stuff, and it does cause, it causes a lot of side effects, and depending on who you are, it can cause more than others. And if that weren't enough, because I also have a pre-existing condition called idiopathic thrombocytopenia, and for all we know, I've had it my whole life. But because of that, I frequently have to go on high doses of prednisone, because chemo, it stops your body from producing platelets. And so if I get down to a certain number, my doctor gets real scared and makes me go on real high doses of prednisone, and they don't wean me off. So when I'm on the prednisone, I don't sleep right, and when I am up, I have a real hard time concentrating. I can go over material and just have such a hard time thinking about it, or putting it together. It's really tough. And then when I go off it for a few days after, I get these strange side effects. Part of it's panic attacks. A lot of it, on and off it, is this sort of swollen gut, and it's really uncomfortable. And then because I have ITP, my spleen will start working overtime when they produce all these platelets that they want me to have for the chemo. So the thing is, I'm just not functioning at 100% right now. And it is hard to deal with, dealing with the reality that you're not at 100%. That's hard. I took care of my dad for just over a year till he died, and I lived with him at that time. And I saw firsthand what it's like, because he lost one leg, and then later on he lost another leg, and he didn't have any legs. And his whole life, you know, he had gotten up early every morning and worked doing things. He couldn't do that anymore. And I mean, even with, we got him a Rascal scooter, but like, you know, even after, when he lost the second leg, I mean, just to move him around, because he was 71, his bones were brittle, and, you know, we couldn't just grab him with a strap and move him, so we had to get a lift, and it was really hard for him. And it was hard for him to deal with having to be as confined as he was. He couldn't do the things that he used to do. So I understand, I have a lot of empathy for the people I know who are in a situation where they can't function the way that they're used to, because I'm right in that same area. So it's really rough, but just thank you everybody for your patience. I was, you know, I had scheduled myself to put out an investigation video last Sunday, but the material was far, far, far too broad. And if I had put one out, it just wouldn't have done the subject any justice. It would have been some kind of topsy-turvy, you know, just me throwing information at you without having thought it out and really examined it. You know, it wouldn't have done it any justice. And then now it's 5 days after. I haven't put out any midweek, mostly because of the meds, and just knowing I just can't really make my mind work right oftentimes. So I haven't done that. But still constantly working, researching. I've got another blog entry that I'm getting ready to write on the second parable in Luke 16, which it's a good one, and it's really, I think, one of the most misunderstood parables that Jesus ever told. It's the parable of Lazarus and the rich man. And as most of you are aware, that parable is oftentimes used by those people who advocate eternal conscious burning torment. They'll use that. They'll say, see right there, they'll say Jesus taught that there is this areas. I'm on the highway and sometimes I hit dead pockets, you know. But yeah, that's what's going on. So I just got another chemo infusion, so maybe I might not be able to put out another video this Sunday. Two things. Yeah, the chemo and all the extra medications, because of different factors, that has definitely slowed me down in ways I don't like. But the other thing, and I got to figure out a place to turn here. Darn it. I went too far. Now I got to turn around. I got to find a place to turn around. So anyways, see, that's what it does to your mind. I got a bad feeling that the first place I can turn around is a long ways up the road. Oh well. I'm going to be late for my next appointment. I didn't even realize that. So, sorry about that. I just realized that. It's possible that by this Sunday, because of this, the treatment and how they kind of affect me, I might not be able to do another one by Sunday. I guess the best answer is that, you know, I'll get that next investigation video out as soon as I can, and those extras videos, I'll get one of those out as soon as I can, Now look, there was a place I could turn around and it's being blocked by a cop. Perfect. That's perfect. Anyways, so with the well, let me actually just tell you a little bit about the language end of what I do, because it's been a while since I've really done anything on the language end of what I do. A lot of you know that the website I have is called The Obry Project, and that is pretty much the heading of basically everything I do, whether it's the work on language, which for those who don't know, it is the systematic stripping away of the Masoretic system that they applied to the pure text at some time in the past, which has effectively hidden the text and what it really says from us. This is why the Obry Project, that was the impetus of the Obry Project. Now, the things I've found out since I started approaching the language like that has led me to a number of other facets, like, for instance, geographical. You know, I cannot believe that the descriptions I read of in the Bible are Palestine. You could not convince me in any way, shape, or form that those descriptions are Palestine. I'm sorry. Oh, I think I got an opening. Oh, it says no, you... Darn it. Wouldn't you know, I miss an exit on a stretch of highway that's just gigantic. Oh, man. I can't believe I did that. Oh, well. This is a long one, too. Out of all the stretches between exits I could miss, I missed it at the long stretch. Oh, my goodness. Anyways, I'll stop going on about that. So, with the language in Obry, try to tell you what's been going on. Because of the fact that I'm gonna be labeled probably by most people as CI, Christian identity. The reason for that is mostly because, and first off, folks, for those who are not all that familiar with what Christian identity is, if you did a Google search on Christian identity, you would probably get pages up by Southern Poverty Law Center and, you know, the ADL, maybe Canary Mission, and other sort of watchdog Jewish organizations out there that'll tell you some pretty unflattering things about Christian identity. You might also find like wiki type pages that'll echo about the same thing. Well, I'm here to tell you that Christian identity is very diverse. In fact, I have scheduled a guy who is a Christian identitarian from Australia on one of my Sunday special lives. So the next one at the end of this month, and we're going to continue our discussion on the Black Death. But the last Sunday of, I guess it would be June, will be this guy. He goes by Obadiah, or Obi, and he has the Christian Identity Forum. So you can punch that into a search engine, and you should find him pretty easily. Now, he has a forum there And he also has, and I'm going to have to get a hold of him because he's got rules on the forum. You have to post within a certain amount of time of signing up for it, or else you lose your account status. And when I signed up for it, that's when I had to go on this medication again. And so I've got to send him an email and let him know what happened. I probably lost my account status already. I'm going to have to make another account. But there's a reason for that, you know, and it's because he wants people to be interactive, which I completely understand. In addition to the forum, he also has a number of podcasts that he features on there. I haven't asked him to feature mine because, I mean, in all honesty, I'm not purely Christian identity. And that's kind of what I'm getting at. They'll call me Christian identity because there's a couple of reasons. And I really think that these are pretty much about the only reasons that probably should qualify somebody for Christian identity. First off, I recognize who Israel is historically. And I do that by, first off and foremost, all of the biblical signs that we have fulfilled. I do that also by paying attention to the people and culture of the Bible, who would be Israelites and Judahites, and our people and our culture. And I find them to be more than remarkably similar. I find them to be a dead-on solid match. All right, well, also, and this is the thing that actually really led me to being an identitarian, or identifying us as Israel. So when you say us, yeah, I know you got to get into the Germanics, Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, and possibly, you know, Scandinavian type peoples. It's a people type, and it is a people type that's a bit different than a good amount of Southern Europeans. I don't know if it was like that 5, 6, 10 centuries ago or not, but it is kind of like that today, because in many of those countries there's been so much various interracial mixings. You know, it just makes them a bit of a different people type. But that's it. So if you understand who Israel is, and you can begin to understand eschatology differently, because Israel heavily factors into eschatological events. Now, as far as a lot of New Testament concepts and what we think of as Gentiles and different ideas about salvation, you know what? I'm going to just be honest with you. I don't know yet. I haven't made up my mind. But, so there's that. Okay, I identify who the Israel people are. Okay, and B, and this is the big one. This is where they're going to start calling me CI, and they're going to say a lot outspoken when it comes to challenging the Jews on their claim of being the Israelites, since they don't fit any of the criteria. The only criteria I can see them fitting, at best at this point in time, is, as Paul spoke about, the man of sin, the lawless one, who opposes everything that is God. That's the best description I've got right now. So I will be called CI. That's just the way it's going to be. So I will have this CI gentleman on. He's got a good topic picked out, but he's keeping it he's keeping it a little bit under wraps, like as far as not going to it, and that's good because I can have a conversation on the fly just as easy as anyone. For all of you who tune in for that, or the next one with Bob, as I said on the first one with Bob, I monitor the chat the whole time. I don't have a wrench or anything. I don't even know how to do that. Like, I don't know how to like bar people from chat. That's not why I monitor it. But I am looking for questions. So, if you tune in to the live, just please always make sure there's a question mark for any of these guests. Go by pretty fast. So I need to just spot, a question in the mix. So with being CI, there's a lot of doctrine that a certain branch of CI teaches that's heavily focused around concepts in the New Testament. I'm aware of them. Some of them, when I first encountered CI, because I didn't encounter CI and then convert to CI. I already knew who the Israelite people were, and then started checking out CI. So I encountered some ideas, some teachings from various people in CI about the New Testament. Some of them registered as true right away. I thought, okay, well, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Some of them, they just didn't register right. And so, even though I would probably rather spend most of my time working on the Old Testament and Obry, I really would. I have to, for the sake of doctrine and practice and living, spend a certain amount of time in the Gospels. So here's the problem. When I began reading the Gospels again, I started in Luke, because I don't know Luke very well. Well, I just haven't read it as much as the others. And the problem was that I've been learning Greek here and there, just so that I can identify the alphabet. I can identify diphthongs. I know how to pronounce, and I can start identifying roots, suffixes, prefixes. And the super creepy thing, I start seeing all of these words, not necessarily in Luke, but some are in Luke. But in cross-references I would do back to Matthew and Mark, I start seeing all of these words that they have to be transliterated from Obry. And it's not just an odd word here or there. It's all kinds of words. Hey, Sean, most of the Bible is disinfo. Yeah, well, we're going to have to agree to disagree on that. So the words that I started finding were clearly Greek transliterations of Obry words. Now, somebody could justify that, I suppose, if they looked at something like Gehenna. So let's take Gehenna. And now this kind of relates to what Sean just said. Most of the Bible's disinfo, which I don't agree with. I'll never agree with that, but this relates to it directly. Not most of the Bible, all of the Bible has been compromised in its language, on its surface. And I don't mean every last word. I don't mean that it's been so compromised that we can't tell what it's saying or use it as a device to learn, to clean our minds, to live by. I don't mean that. But enough to where many, many things are misleading. If that were not the case, there would not be over 1,000 denominations in Christianity alone. And I'm sure there's more than that. There is so many problems in the text. Now, this Greek thing is one of them. So, as I was saying, Gehenna. Okay, take a word like Gehenna. It's a Greek word. You're going to see it in there as basically Gina. Gina. All right. It comes from two Obri words. The first one, and it means, they say valley, which I got a real hard time with it being valley. It seems almost more like a chasm, a gorge, a vertical wall, either going down or up. And the second word is enum. Like oftentimes it's called Gia ben enum, Gia beni enum. It's so the sons of Enum, E-N-M, would be the English equation. All right, so you can take something like that and you can say, well, that's very closely transliterated, and it was just one of those places, and they really could come up with a Greek. There was no Greek description. Maybe they had a hard time with what a gi or gia was, because it's a bit ambiguous in the text. And, then Enum is a name. So you could justify that, right? Gia ben Enum, them turning it into Gehenna. Okay. What you can't justify is, for instance, all the times that they transliterate Amen. So you're trying to tell me that Yeshua, Jesus, was speaking Greek, but he's ad hocing Obri in there. It's the weirdest thing, because there's plenty of equivalents for Amen. Amen is an affirmation. So be it. That's what it is. There are Greek words for Amen. You don't have to transliterate Amen, but it's transliterated all over the place. Weights and measures. Okay, so there's a parable where Yeshua's talking about different volumes of oil or grain. Okay, and he's bringing up the, what's usually translated as Homer, which is just a hammer, like H-M-R. Think of that. That would be the equivalent, hammer. Or a hin. Or a bath. They're transliterated. Now, if you want to confuse somebody, and you're writing in Greek, and you're the original author, and you have enough of a command of Greek, because look, guys, if I knew the measurements, like, I know these days, most Americans got a decent handle on metric, but not the general reader. The general reader doesn't know what the basic equivalents are. between metric and American standard that we use here. So, if I read something in another language, German, and it's 2.5 meters, right? Let's say it's 2.5 meters. And I'm writing my book in English, and I want to tell people that such and such is 2.5 meters long. But I'm writing it in English for an American audience. Then I'm going to know that I need to put that into yards and feet. Yards and feet. And it's easy to do. Okay? And if it was written by Israelites and or Judahites, and they knew Greek, or they were using a translator, shouldn't have been a problem. They could translate those words. They're not translated. They're transliterated. So that we don't even understand what a Homer comes to, or a bath. There's guesses. That's it. So what I ended up having to do was I started on a book that was recommended by an article from a source that seemed pretty trustworthy. And this book turned out to not be such a great find. And it really sucked up a lot of my time. It was by a Jewish author back in the 70s. And all right, for those of you who know a few things, don't give me an "I told you so" just because I said it was a Jewish author. I mean, I've read a few books now by Jewish authors, and depending on the subject, you're not going to get spin. And because of the way he was approaching it, that's what I figured. I figured that it's real possible that there's not going to be any spin here because he had a different approach. The problem is, I just couldn't even believe it. And it's got to be my naivety. It's like there's something wrong, just genetically wrong, with the thought process of, come on, most Jews. Or let's just say, from my perspective, being a non-Jew. Either which way, the thought process that I was witnessing just in the extensive prologue or prefix and the first chapter was terrible. I'm like, oh my gosh, this was a scholarly work. It's a 700-page book. And so I finally decided to abandon that and go back to doing these pure studies on my own. The reason I started his book is because he was supposed to be showing all of the equations between Hebrew, as he would call it, Hebrew, and Greek. But it got insane. It got really dumb really fast. And I got real uncomfortable with it. So now I'm back to that, and I'm working in the New Testament, tracking transliterated words from Obery. But the thing is, I can't complete that or really understand what's going on lest I go back to the Old Testament and start listing out all of the transliterated proper names. And so that's what I've started doing. So that project is in the works, working on it every day. And I'm not far. I got to do 2 doctors today. Anyway, don't get cancer, folks, okay? Don't get cancer. So the other thing is the Mormonism is Judaism. I want to just give you a quick quick little rundown on some things about that. So a lot of you who followed the series I did, Joseph Smith and the Kabbalah, which was heavily reading from the Mormon apologist Lance Owens' article by the same name, and common information. I'm sure he did not mean to convince anyone of this. But by the time I was done, I was convinced that, well, he was trying to sell everybody on the idea that Joe Smith was a true prophet and that all of his teachings and everything, all the writings in Kabbalah was inspired too, and everything we see in Zohar are also archetypes. That's what Judaism, in the extra video in green, it had kind of a lime green look to it. I think I called it an addendum. And I went over Sabbatean Frankism to the best of my understanding, because my understanding of Sabbatean Frankism was limited at the time. But I knew that it had to have a lot to do with what was going on with the Mormons, because I was seeing the same types of behaviors, movements that I had understood about the revolution of Zabbatai Zvi and Jacob Frank. All right, well, since I've formulated that thesis that I'm working from, my first point of that thesis is showing that these people who were involved from the start, so most specifically the Smith family, and quite probably the Hale family, and the Whitmer family, and perhaps a few others, were in fact conversos. So that is Jews that changed their name and identity for expedience sake. That was part of point one. The other one was to show Masonic connections as well. Well, as is typical for me, I really shot the moon on this one. And once I get this first bit of legwork going and I hit my stride, it will be so much easier to produce videos from that point forward. However, there is a lot of back work that needs to be done. I mean, I've generated my own timeline and I'm not kidding you folks, for just about the last 1,000 years. The earliest date on it is like 1090. And I only go up till pretty much about the time that they're supposed to be in Kirtland. So I timeline up to 1830. Now this timeline I'm generating, it doesn't have anything to do with the Mormons. It has to do with world events, and those people who like to keep their names out of these world events. And the problem is I'm finding out so many things that, well, they're not just interesting on their surface, but they also contribute heavily to my thesis. The thing is, you can't just throw out these incomplete bits and pieces, or it just, as I said, it does the topic just no justice. But know that it is exciting. The stuff I'm learning is so amazing. And the funny thing is, I'm getting most of my information from Jewish publications. The Jewish Encyclopedia, the Talmud, the Zohar, my online, or what's it called, like My Jewish Learning, Online Jewish Library, Gershon Scholem, Rabbi Antelman. You just got to know how to chicken and bones this stuff, It is so fascinating. And you guys, I think you're going to enjoy the way that the series develops. And I'm only a block away from my doctor, so I got to wrap this up. But I did want to let everybody know, hey, I'm okay, but I'm not okay. Hey, some of the medications are making it where I can't work like I used to in my mind. But I'm getting there. You know, it's like I said, I'm 2/3 of the way done with the treatment. So, you know, all of you who pray for me, thank you so much. I I couldn't ask for anything more than that. To me, that's more than gold, you know? So thank you. And for those who aren't familiar with the Obry Project website, go visit it, check it out. I'm still working on the About page. I don't have that completed, so it'll definitely seem incomplete. And, you know, I do have to do a little work here and there, but there are resources on the resources page. So take a look at that. And, you know, I really hope, you know, a lot of you will get blessed. I know I got a lot of people who tune in and listen who aren't believers whatsoever. And I understand that. And I'm really grateful for all of you who stay civil. Like Sean Hammer, he commented on here. He said that the Bible was propaganda, or I'm sorry. And you know, we disagree on that. But Sean has been very civil, you know, since he started coming to my channel. And there's a lot of people who aren't believers, but they're very civil, and we're able to communicate back and forth. And I couldn't ask for more than that. So just thank you, everybody. Again, I'm at my doctor's now, so I have to go. But I really appreciate all of you a great deal. And I mean, honestly, when I don't produce a video, even if there aren't any comments, when I don't produce a video, when I can't communicate with any of you, that it oftentimes makes me feel kind of bad too, you know? So that's it. That's all I got to say. Thanks you guys for tuning in, and we'll be seeing each other again real soon.